the obesity epidemic. With the rise of obesity as it continues to trend upward, you can expect to have some health issues arise. If you are holding that excess weight for years, decades, I know that we're in the body positivity movement. Seed oils are not unhealthy. The obesity final boss. It is the fact that you're eating the family-sized bag of gummy bears. Your relationship with food is not healthy. Are not making you fat. What is making you fat? I want you to lean in really, really close. It is what is up, people of YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about something that is an extremely prevalent issue really worldwide, but especially if you are someone who lives in the Western world or Western society, specifically the United States of America. It is one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest, I would say, health crises that is plaguing this nation and that has possibly ever plagued mankind. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but it is the biggest issue that is facing the current state of mankind, and that is the obesity epidemic and the amount of people worldwide, but again, specifically in Western society, that are overweight or obese. Being overweight or obese directly leads to a whole host of health issues, especially if you are holding that excess weight for years, decades, the majority of your life, especially when it starts early in life. You can expect to have some health issues arise. I know that we're in the body positivity movement era, and the culture has kind of shifted into this being comfortable in your own skin, and I love that. I think body dysmorphia is a close second for the biggest issues that plague modern society with the advent of social media. But there has to be some sense of conviction and some sense of reality that if you are someone who is excessively overweight, especially if you hold that for a long period of your life, you can expect to see serious health issues arise from that. The three leading causes of death in the United States are cancer, heart disease, and some variant of metabolic syndrome or metabolic disease. And all three of those can be directly linked in some way, shape, or form to obesity. So holding an excessive amount of adipose tissue or body fat is problematic. It leads to health issues. I want to be very clear about that. It is not healthy to be overweight. Now we have to talk about why we are overweight and what we can do to prevent that, because with the rise of obesity as it continues to trend upward, you read about all the time, cut this out of your diet, this is why you're overweight, stop doing this, start doing this. And a lot of it is just, I don't want to say misinformation because there is some bits of truth, but a lot of it gets twisted. A lot of people use research to twist things. And so I think that a lot of the misinformation that comes in today's world in terms of health, fitness, obesity, losing weight, it all comes down to profiteering. GLP-1, for example. I think that's a really good example of modern society capitalizing on the obesity epidemic. So I want to address three main things that you may have heard, especially as of late, that I think, again, are just, I say this all the time, but you're missing the forest for the trees. Is it a good thing probably to focus on some of these things to minimize your exposure to them? Absolutely. But you'll find as we go through this video, there is what I'm calling the obesity final boss, and it is the overarching nemesis of maintaining a healthy weight in quite literally everybody. And I don't want to spoil it too early, but let's get into the first. And that number one is seed oils. So we've all heard it. Seed oils are causing you to be inflamed. They're causing your estrogen to rise. They're causing your testosterone to lower. They're causing all this chronic stress. Seed oils are leading directly to obesity, right? We've all heard that. The reality is seed oils in a vacuum are not unhealthy. In fact, there are several seed oils that are objectively healthy. They are objectively good for your blood health, and we have research to back this up. Canola oil, for example, has a high level of linoleic acid, has a very good omega-6 profile that in a vacuum, in and of itself, is actually conducive to improving your blood markers, your cholesterol, your lipid profile. So that is not necessarily the issue. The second thing you might have heard is processed sugars, right? And I will be the first to admit, if you watched my last video, the grocery haul, I try to avoid added sugars if at all possible, because it leads directly to the actual issue at hand, which we're gonna get to in a second. But processed sugars in and of themselves are not necessarily an unhealthy thing. In terms of what happens in your body with sugars, whether it comes from fruit, gummy bears, oats, rice, potatoes, it all gets broken down in your bloodstream into glucose. Now, is there a level of biochemical activity that is dependent on what the source of that sugar is in terms of, does it come from sucrose? Does it come from fructose? Yes, there is a difference. Absolutely. I'm not trying to minimize that, but it all gets broken down into glucose in your bloodstream. And from there, a cascade of things happen, and that causes some health issues if that happens in excess, right? The third big thing that I really wanted to talk about is salt. I hope that you are informed enough now to know that salt is not the major killer that we used to think it was. Yes, American society, most Western societies, but especially in the United States of America, people overconsume salt. That is the reality. Mass overconsumption of salt or sodium is going to lead to health problems. It's going to lead to heart disease. It's going to lead to several cardiovascular issues that you want to avoid. And the average American does overconsume salt. But if you consume a healthy amount of salt, if you're someone who's very active, if you're someone who sweats a lot, if you're someone who does a lot of cardiovascular activity, if your diet is overall healthy, you can consume an excess amount of salt, and it actually is going to be beneficial for your performance. So again, it's not necessarily salt, it's not necessarily added or processed sugars, and it is not necessarily seed oils. So what is the reality? What is the final boss? What is directly causing the obesity epidemic in Western society or in modern society as a whole? It is ultra processed, highly palatable foods. So the reality is foods are being engineered to taste amazing. They're being engineered to make you eat more and more and more. I want you to lean in really, really close because I want you to hear this. I want you to understand this. I want this to be branded into your brain, and I want you to take this with you. If you take nothing else from this video, this is what I want you to take. Seed oils, processed sugar, salt are not making you fat. The reality is what is making you fat is the overconsumption of calories. Those three factors, seed oils, processed sugars, salt, are leading to an overconsumption of calories. That's what it comes down to. It really, truly, thermodynamics has not changed since the advent of physics. Calories in, calories out. If you are in an energy deficit, a calorie deficit, meaning if you are consuming less calories than you are burning, you are not going to gain weight. If you're in a calorie surplus or an energy surplus, meaning you are consuming more calories than you are burning, you are going to gain weight. Seed oils, processed sugars, and salt are not directly causing you to become overweight or obese. What they are doing is increasing the palatability of food, which is causing you to eat more. It is truly that simple. Look at a bag of gummy bears. If you were to eat gummy bears in moderation, eat the actual serving size, and then be done, you are not going to gain weight from that. If you are in a maintenance phase, you're eating the perfect amount of calories, you're not gaining weight, and you've done that for a prolonged period of time, and you take a certain carb source, bananas, white rice, potatoes, pasta, whatever you're eating, and you replace that calorie equated with gummy bears, you will not gain any weight. Again, it's thermodynamics. Now, will you become deficient in some micronutrients if you're not taking the proper precautions to get those excess vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, things like that? Absolutely. Don't twist what I'm saying into you can eat gummy bears and replace all your fruit with gummy bears and you're going to be totally fine. That's not the case. But in terms of what is making you overweight, it is not the gummy bears. It is the fact that you're eating the family-sized bag of gummy bears in 2 days. It's the fact that you're eating a family-sized bag of Doritos in 2 days, right? That is the issue. So it all comes down to the palatability of food. Again, seed oils, processed sugars, excess salt, especially when you start to combine these things, it leads to ultra high palatability, which means you just want to eat more. And when you want to eat more, you're going to eat more. So when you start to incorporate those things into your diet, you're going to want more. You're going to want more. Your hormones do then start to get messed up because then your ghrelin and your leptin, the hunger and the satiety hormones of your body that control when you're hungry, when you're satisfied, when you should eat, when you shouldn't eat, that's all going to get messed with because, again, these foods, I want to be very serious on how I address this. Food engineering is a serious issue right now. These big companies are paying people more in a year than you'll make in your entire life, your entire salary, your entire retirement fund, to make these foods as delicious as possible. Why? Is it because they want you to get fat? I don't know. We can get into a conspiracy rabbit hole. The reality is it comes down to money. They don't care if you're getting fat or if you're not getting fat. They don't care if you're consuming things responsibly or not. They just care that you consume their product, and the faster you get through a bag of Doritos, the faster you're going to go back to the store and buy another bag, which is more money for them, right? So that is why these foods are being engineered to taste so good, because you go through them quicker, you buy more. You are a return customer. The better something tastes, the more likely you are to get through it quickly and buy it again. So that is the reality. So when people talk about seed oils, again, we have so much recent clinical data to support that seed oils are not inherently unhealthy. And in fact, most seed oils are inherently healthy. Like there are studies that directly compare seed oils like canola oil, sunflower oil, grapeseed oil directly to the quote unquote healthy oils such as extra virgin olive oil. And in almost all cases, when calories are equated, when other dietary factors are equated, there's no difference. And in fact, a lot of research that has looked at seed oils compared to things like butter and ghee and lard, which the animal-based community will tell you, you need to replace all your seed oils with this because this is so much better for your health and your hormones. There are a lot of studies now that show that seed oils actually have better effects on your health biomarkers and your blood biochemistry than butter, ghee, and lard do because of the profile of polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs. So seed oils are not inherently unhealthy, right? Seed oils are very high in omega-6s, but omega-6s are necessary. They're needed in your body for healthy blood, for healthy lipid levels, for healthy cholesterol production. The problem arises when you have an imbalance between your omega-6s and your omega-3s, right? So these are the types of fatty acids that you need in a balance in your body. You want omega-3s and omega-6s to exist in a healthy balance. So when you overconsume to an extreme processed foods that contain high levels of seed oils, you're going to overconsume omega-6s, right? So if your ratio should be omega-6s to omega-3s here, but you're eating so much processed foods, so many seed oils, that the ratio comes to here, right? That is when health can become problematic. Same thing with the processed sugars. Again, do I think that processed sugar is the way to go? Absolutely not. I'm the first person to tell you I advocate for cutting processed sugars out of your diet completely if possible. What it comes down to is processed sugars lead to higher palatability, which leads to higher levels of consumption of foods. You are more likely to eat in an energy surplus or a calorie surplus if you're consuming highly processed and super palatable foods. So I advocate for cutting processed sugars out. But again, in a vacuum, processed sugars are not directly causing you to become overweight or obese. If you're someone who consumes processed sugars in moderation, you remain in a caloric maintenance or caloric neutral, or you remain in a calorie deficit, you will still maintain or lose weight. You will not gain body fat just from eating processed sugars. Another really big thing that I want to touch on in this video really quickly is the misinformation that you'll experience in this field, because there's so much misinformation. People will take studies, they will twist studies, they don't mention where these studies are being performed, who they're being funded by, which is a whole another topic for another video. The reality is you have to look at correlation and not necessarily causation. If you guys took like high school science, one thing that they always said in terms of correlation versus causation that always stuck with me, and it's a very simple example, but it should make sense. In the summertime, there is a higher amount of ice cream sales, right? Makes sense. Consumption of ice cream in the United States goes drastically up in the months of summer, right? So does shark attacks. During the summer months, shark attack frequency goes up as well. Consumption of ice cream goes up, shark attack frequency goes up. No one in their right mind would say that the consumption of ice cream in America is leading to more shark attacks. That just doesn't make sense. You have to look at research in the same light. When you read a study that says that seed oils are causing these negative health effects, you have to look deeper into the methods of the study. Are they being done in a lab? Is caloric intake being monitored and being given? Is it a lab-based study or is it a natural diet-based study? Because there are two different types of nutrition studies and they play a big role. If seed oils are being isolated as the only variable, which again, we have studies that do this and they show no negative effects. Studies that show that seed oils are increasing negative health effects come down to the fact that they're not isolating the consumption of seed oils. The reality is the people who are consuming more seed oils, again, are more likely to overconsume calories. There are also a lot of lifestyle factors that come into it too, right? The people who are eating highly processed food and getting an excess amount of seed oils are likely not so intentional about their health, right? They don't particularly care about taking these extra steps, right? If someone is going so far as to cut seed oils completely out of their diet, they probably care a little bit more about their weight. They probably care a little bit more about their health. They're probably doing other things, like maybe they're doing more activity throughout the week. They're doing more cardiovascular movement. They're cleaning up other aspects of their diet. They're monitoring their fruit and vegetable intake. There's so many lifestyle factors that go into it. And this is a big thing, really quick tangent here. It's the same thing with animal consumption or consumption of red meat. There is nothing inherently unhealthy about consumption of red meat. Now, if you overconsume it, obviously there is the potential for some health issues to arise. But again, any study that looks at animal products or red meat in particular in isolation, and when calories are equated, when other lifestyle factors are equated, there is no negative health effect of consuming red meat. The problem is the people who are likely to overconsume red meat naturally are usually middle-aged or older males who usually don't take care of their health. They usually don't exercise as frequently as they should. Alcohol drinkers, cigarette or cigar smokers. They're usually not following a lifestyle that is conducive to optimal health. So I really want you to soak that in because it is so important. There are so many bigger fish to fry. The consumption of seed oil, again, is not inherently unhealthy. And again, I talk about the combination of these ingredients. When you have something that is deep fried in seed oil and it is excessively salty, it does something to your brain chemistry that just makes you love it and make you want to eat more and more and more, and you want to go back. With your fried chicken sandwich, you have to have a side of fries, right? And you have to dip it in ranch, and you have to look at everything in totality. Seed oils are not what is causing you to be fat. Processed sugar is not what is causing you to be fat. Excess salt is not what is causing you to be fat. What is causing you to be fat is overconsumption of energy or overconsumption of calories. That is all it comes down to. All three of those things in excess are going to contribute to the overconsumption of calories. Absolutely. But that is not to say that they are inherently unhealthy. So the reason I think that this video is so important, I think people too often focus on the wrong things. If you're someone who has struggled with being overweight or being obese for a long period of your life, you see a TikTok or you watch a YouTube video that says, cut out seed oils, they're making you fat. You go directly to that, but you don't address the bigger issues in your diet, which is your relationship with food mentally and emotionally. You need to take care of that stuff first before you just say, oh, I watched a TikTok that said seed oils are unhealthy, so I'm cutting them out of my diet completely, and you watch, I'm gonna be so much healthier. That might work for you, but it most likely won't. And that is why people yo-yo diet. That's why people rebound. They end up losing weight and then gaining it all back because you're not addressing the bigger issue, which is your relationship with food is not healthy. You're over-consuming food. Whatever it may be, you need to address that, confront it, conquer it. You need to conquer that issue. You need to conquer that relationship with food and find ways to make a healthy change, which again, seed oils, processed sugars, excess salt, like these are factors, they're variables. Trust me, they are very important, but they're not the main thing. The main thing is the energy balance in your body, right? And that comes through a combination of restricting calories or restricting energy intake and increasing your energy expenditure through things like non-exercise activity, which is going on walks, going on hikes, playing basketball with your friends, and exercise, right? Like do your cardiovascular exercise, do your strength training. If you haven't watched that video, make sure you go check out that video on why strength training is so important for your health. The biggest thing is addressing the elephant in the room, which is the overconsumption of food. That is what is causing all these issues. To the people that say that it is seed oils, and that seed oils have all this research, again, don't take what people are telling you in terms of research at face value, because the reality is most people have some sort of incentive to tell you something, right? Like if someone is telling you on TikTok to get rid of seed oils and replace it with butter or ghee, and they have, their brand of grass-fed butter or ghee linked in the bio, like they have an incentive to manipulate the research in a way that is conducive to them making financial gains. Again, you have to learn to critically think and critically analyze, and I hope that this video is the first step in you realizing that and becoming more aware, because ultimately that's the goal of this channel, is to inform and to educate and to make you more aware. But the take-home message here, again, is look at things in totality. Look at the overall effect or the overall impact of your lifestyle. Address the bigger issues first. If you are overweight or you are obese, you are in an energy surplus. You are consuming more calories than you're burning. You need to address that first. To be clear, will cutting out processed sugars or seed oils or excess salt help you in that regard? Probably. For most people, it will. But that's not conquering the bigger issue or the final boss, which is excess energy consumption. So I hope that this video made sense. I hope that you learned something. I think it's really important. Now, if you're someone who just doesn't know where to get started, this video resonated with you, but you don't know how to practically apply it to your life, please reach out to me. I do nutrition coaching. I will write you an entire program. I will give you tips, guidance, whatever you're looking for in terms of how to clean up your diet, how to make it conducive to your lifestyle in a way that is sustainable long term, not just for a 3-month period or a 6-month period or a 1-year weight loss journey, right? It needs to be a long-term, sustainable thing that you can have success with. Again, I've been doing this for a long time. I've helped so many people change their lives through healthy relationships with diet and exercise. And if you want to be the next transformation story for me, I would love to get you started and work through this journey with you. As always, if you like this video, prove it by hitting that like button. Drop a comment down below to let me know what you learned, what you agree with, what you disagree with. I'm all for it. And as always, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on more content just like this. Peace, guys.